Marketplace is supported by Putnam Investments, where performance is driven by original fundamental research on a global scale. This is Putnam Today. Produced in association with the University of Southern California.
We're going to spend some time on banks today, the general health thereof and the risks they still present too. Also, the witching hour for cable news and travel toys for summertime. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Reputation Defender, monitoring, protecting, and helping improve your online reputation while deleting personal data from websites that sell it. ReputationDefender.com/market. And by Ally Bank, committed to customer service. At allybank.com, visitors can chat online with a customer care associate 24/7.
From the Frank Stanton Studios in Los Angeles, I'm Kai Ryssdal. It is Wednesday, today the 14th of July. Great, as always, to have you with us. There was a report out this morning from the Congressional Oversight Panel. That's the group that's in charge of keeping an eye on the TARP, the bank bailout of a year and a half ago. In a nutshell, it goes a little something like this. The $700 billion that was allotted to keep the financial industry up and running did a bang-up job taking care of the big banks, those too-big-to-fail ones. Smaller firms, not quite as systemically important. TARP didn't really do much for them. They're having a hard time making quarterly dividend payments, let alone paying the money back. And in fact, the report says that the TARP may actually lead to more takeovers and failures of small banks. Marketplace's Jeremy Hobson reports.
Today's report says 1 in 7 small banks that took money in the bailout has already missed a dividend payment to the government, and those dividends will only get more expensive as time goes on. Elizabeth Warren chairs the Congressional Oversight Panel that wrote the report. She says all this means some small banks will likely be swallowed up or shut down.
When the smaller banks are weak, their lending remains constricted. And these are the banks that disproportionately lend to small businesses.
And since small businesses are a key engine of economic growth, she warns the demise of small banks could stymie the recovery. But not everyone is so concerned. Andy Stapp, an analyst at B. Riley, admits that small banks are an important resource for local communities.
But a lot of these are being taken over by larger community banks. So, in that regard, I don't think you lose anything.
Bart Narder agrees. He heads the banking group at Celent. He says losing 1 in 7 small banks wouldn't be the end of the world.
Banks of under $100 million in assets simply aren't of a viable size anymore.
Narder says small banks have been losing deposits to the mega banks for decades, long before there were TARP dividend payments.
In the good old days, you had a branch and you had an ATM and you were done. Now you need internet banking, you need mobile banking. You have all this regulation you have to comply with. So small banks have been disappearing at a very fast rate in any case. Nothing to do with TARP.
Still, Elizabeth Warren's panel warns fewer small banks will concentrate even more power at the large Wall Street institutions. She says that could set us up for more financial crises. In New York, I'm Jeremy Hobson for Marketplace.
If small banks are in trouble, all indications point to the big guys doing pretty well. We'll learn just how well tomorrow morning when J.P. Morgan starts the quarterly banking profit parade. But, small bank failures and booming business at the likes of J.P. Morgan are only half the story. A new report out from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York says the financial reform bill that's in Congress now barely touches on a key part of the financial industry, what's called shadow banking. Our senior editor and wizard of the Marketplace whiteboard, Patty Hirsch, is here. Hello, Patty.
How you doing?
I'm well. First things first, I suppose we need a definition. Shadow banking is?
Well, shadow banking is banking. Shadow banks are organizations that lend money to people, just like traditional banks do. So the difference between traditional banks and shadow banks in that respect is minimal. There's no difference between them. The difference comes, however, when you talk about who actually puts their money into these banks, because banks obviously take money in and then lend money out. In a traditional bank, that money comes in from depositors. In a shadow bank, in the shadow banking system, that money comes from investors. That's not depositors, not people like you and I, but investors who want to invest in that company.
Are there names of entities within the shadow banking world that we would recognize?
Oh, sure. Two classics are Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns.
Oh,
for
I know
example.
them. Yeah.
Those big investment banks were part of the shadow banking system. The people that